My name is Susie Chambers. I'm 11 years old, and last August my entire family went to Europe for a month and left me behind with a crumpled 20, a 5, and 2 ones in my hand. "You're practically a teenager now," my mother Christina said, her manicured nails drumming on her phone screen as she scrolled through their itinerary. "Besides, Wiles will check on you." She gestured vaguely toward my 17-year-old brother, who was already loading suitcases into the rental van, earbuds in, completely ignoring us both. $27. 4 weeks. No plan, no goodbye that mattered, just my mother's lipstick kiss on my forehead that smelled like lies and expensive perfume. "I'll be fine," I said to the empty driveway after the van disappeared around the corner. My voice echoed in the silence that followed, but my hands were shaking so badly I had to shove them into my pockets. The house felt different already. Bigger, colder, like it knew I was alone and didn't care. I didn't know it then, but that moment, standing on our front porch with $27 and a sinking feeling in my stomach, would become the dividing line between who I used to be and who I would have to become. Because when my family finally came back, sunburned and laughing, carrying bags full of souvenirs and stories, they would walk into a house that no longer belonged to them. They would find something that made my mother drop every single shopping bag and scream so loud the neighbors came running. Do you want to know how being left with $27 at 11 turned into the moment that destroyed my family's perfect image forever? Stay until the end and you'll see exactly how I made sure they would never forget what they did to me. The first problem hit about an hour after they left. I was sitting at the kitchen table trying to figure out how to make $27 last a month when I realized something that made my blood run cold. Wiles wasn't checking on me. He had gone with them. I had heard my mother say his name. I had assumed she meant he would stay behind. But when I ran upstairs to his room, it was empty. His duffel bag was gone, his laptop, his charger, even his stupid collection of energy drinks, all gone. I stood in his doorway, staring at the made bed, the cleaned desk, the note taped to his mirror that said, "Back in September, try not to burn the house down, W." He thought it was a joke. They all thought it was a joke. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through the family group chat. There were already photos coming in. My father, Gerard, at the airport, grinning with a coffee cup, my younger sister, Caroline, making faces in front of a departure board, my brother giving a thumbs up from his window seat, and my mother's message sent 20 minutes ago, "Off to Paris, so excited. Susie, don't forget to water the plants and take out the trash on Thursdays. Love you." Water the plants, take out the trash, as if those were the biggest concerns for a kid alone for 30 days. I typed and deleted 3 different responses. "You left me alone," delete. "I thought Wiles was staying," delete. "I'm scared," delete. Instead, I sent back a thumbs up emoji and locked my phone. If they thought I could handle it, then I would show them exactly what handling it looked like. Day 1, I made a plan. I divided $27 by 30 days. That was 90 cents per day. I opened the pantry and took inventory. Half a box of pasta, a jar of peanut butter that was 2/3 empty, a can of soup I didn't know how to heat properly, some crackers, a few packets of instant oatmeal. The fridge had milk that would expire in 3 days, some condiments, and a block of cheese that was already growing a suspicious spot of mold on one corner. I wrote it all down in my notebook, the blue one I used for school assignments. At the top of the page, I wrote food supply and listed everything. Then I flipped to a new page and wrote something else. Day 1, alone. I didn't know why I was writing it down. Some instinct told me I should. Some voice in the back of my head whispered that this might matter later. By day 3, the milk was gone and I was eating oatmeal mixed with water because there was nothing else. It tasted like paste, like something you'd feed to someone you didn't care about. I gagged on the first spoonful but forced it down because my stomach was cramping and I knew hunger when I felt it. I tried the neighbors. Mrs. Leavitt next door was usually friendly, always waving when we pulled into the driveway, but when I knocked on her door that afternoon, she looked at me through the screen with suspicious eyes. "Susie, what are you doing here?" "My family's out of town," I said, trying to sound casual. "I was wondering if I could borrow some groceries, just until they get back." "Out of town?" she frowned. "All of them?" I hesitated. "Yeah, but it's fine. I'm okay. I just need a few things." She crossed her arms. "Honey, where are your parents?" "Europe," I said. The word felt heavy. "And they left you here alone?" I could see it in her face, the judgment, the disbelief. Part of me wanted her to be horrified, to call someone, to fix this. Another part of me remembered my mother's voice. "You're practically a teenager now." If I admitted I couldn't handle it, I would be proving her right, proving I was still just a baby who needed supervision. "I'm not alone," I lied quickly. "Wiles is here, my brother. He's just at a friend's house right now." Mrs. Leavitt's expression softened slightly but didn't clear. "Well, you tell Wiles to come talk to me if you two need anything. I don't feel comfortable just handing food to a child without talking to a responsible party first." The door closed. I stood on her porch, staring at the wood grain, feeling something inside me harden. Responsible party, as if I wasn't responsible enough to be hungry. I walked home with my hands balled into fists. I opened my notebook and wrote, "Day 3, Mrs. Leavitt won't help me, says I need a responsible party. I am 11. I am not a party." Then I added another line, "If something happens to me, people need to know I tried." That night, I set up my phone on the kitchen counter and hit record. My face appeared on the screen, pale and tired under the overhead light. "Day 3, I said quietly. "Still alone. There's almost no food left. I tried to get help, but no one believes when I say I need it. I think they thought I was joking or exaggerating. Maybe I don't look desperate enough." I panned the camera across the kitchen, the empty counters, the nearly bare pantry with its door hanging open, the fridge with its sad collection of condiments. "If you're watching this," I continued, my voice cracking, "it means something went wrong. It means I couldn't make it. And I need people to know it wasn't because I didn't try. It was because they left me." I stopped the recording and saved it to a folder I titled Evidence. By day 5, I started getting dizzy when I stood up too fast. The oatmeal was gone. The pasta was gone because I ate it dry, unable to figure out how to boil it properly without burning myself on the stove. I was down to peanut butter eaten straight from the jar with my fingers, rationing it out one fingerful at a time. I tried calling my mother. No answer. I tried texting. 3 hours later, she sent back a photo of herself in front of the Colosseum with the caption, "Rome is amazing. Missing you." Missing me. She was missing me while I was scraping the bottom of a peanut butter jar for calories. I typed back, "I need help." She responded immediately, "What's wrong? Did you break something?" "No, I need food." There was a long pause. Then, "Susie, there's plenty in the house. Don't be dramatic. We'll be home soon. Just order pizza if you're hungry." Order pizza? With what money? The $27 was already gone. I'd spent $12 on a loaf of bread and peanut butter on day 2, another $8 on mac and cheese that I ruined trying to cook properly. The rest went to a gallon of milk I drank too fast because I was so thirsty and hungry I couldn't stop myself. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my notebook and wrote, "Day 5, told Mom I need food. She said don't be dramatic. She doesn't believe me." Then I picked up my phone again and recorded another video. This time, my hands were shaking so badly that the footage was unsteady. She thinks I'm being dramatic. She thinks there's plenty of food here, but there isn't. I've been eating peanut butter for 2 days. I feel sick, I'm dizzy, and she's in Rome taking pictures. I stopped the recording and curled up on the couch, pulling a blanket over me even though it wasn't cold. I just wanted to feel like something was covering me, protecting me, even if it was just a thin piece of fabric. On day 7, someone knocked on the door. For a moment, I thought about not answering. What if it was someone selling something? What if it was someone dangerous? But then I heard a familiar voice. "Susie, you in there? It's Mr. Foley." Mr. Foley, my social studies teacher from last year. I stumbled to the door and opened it slowly. He stood on the porch in jeans and a t-shirt holding a grocery bag. "Hey, kiddo," he said gently. "I ran into Mrs. Leavitt at the store. She mentioned you came by asking for food, said something about your family being gone. Thought I'd check in." I stared at the grocery bag.
Before we continue, if you're enjoying this story, please hit that subscribe button and tell us in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. We see every single comment and it means the world to us. Thank you so much for your support. Now back to the story.
I could see bread sticking out of the top, a bunch of bananas, the corner of a box of granola bars. "I'm fine," I said automatically, but my voice betrayed me, cracking on the word fine. He tilted his head. "Can I come in?" I hesitated, then stepped back. He walked into the kitchen and set the bag on the counter, then looked around. I saw his eyes take in everything. The empty pantry, the barren fridge, the trash can overflowing with food wrappers from days ago, evidence of how quickly I'd gone through what little there was. "Susie," he said slowly, "how long have you been alone?" 7 days, I whispered. 7 days? His voice rose slightly. "Where are your parents?" "Europe. They'll be back in 3 weeks." 3 weeks? He repeated it like he couldn't believe the words. "And who's staying with you?" "No one." He pulled out his phone. "I need to make some calls." "Please don't," I said quickly. "They'll be mad at me. They'll think I told on them." "Susie." He crouched down so we were eye level. "This isn't your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. They did." "But they said I was old enough. They said I was responsible." "You are responsible," he said firmly. "But being responsible doesn't mean you don't need adults. It doesn't mean you should be left alone with no food and no support. This is neglect, Susie. Do you understand what that word means?" I nodded slowly. We'd learned about it in health class. Neglect was when parents didn't provide basic needs: food, shelter, supervision, safety. "I've been writing it down," I blurted out, "everything that's happened, and I made videos, just in case." His expression shifted, something like pride mixed with sadness. That was smart, really smart. "Can I see?" I brought him my notebook and my phone. He read through the entries silently, his jaw tightening with each page. Then he watched the videos, and I saw his hand grip the counter. When he finished, he looked at me with an intensity I'd never seen in a teacher's eyes before. "Susie, I'm going to help you, but I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to call Child Protective Services, and I'm going to make sure someone knows what's happening here." My heart hammered. "Will I have to leave?" "I don't know yet, but I know you can't stay here alone. Not like this." Within 2 hours, our house was full of people. A woman named Deborah Newton from CPS sat in our kitchen table, taking notes while I answered her questions. Mr. Foley stood nearby, a steady presence. A police officer named Kay Flock walked through the house, documenting everything with photos. "When did your parents leave?" Deborah asked. "August 14th, 7 days ago." "And when are they scheduled to return?" "September 10th. She wrote something down. "Did they leave you with any emergency contacts? Any adults who were supposed to check in on you?" "My brother, Wiles, but he went with them. I didn't realize until after they left." "So you've been completely alone for 7 days?" "Yes." "And how much money did they leave you?" $27. Officer Flock returned to the kitchen. The fridge has almost nothing in it. Pantry's the same. I found evidence that she was trying to ration food, empty containers that have been scraped clean, packaging from meals stretched over multiple days. Deborah's pen moved faster. Susie, have your parents called to check on you? Once. I told my mom I needed food and she said I was being dramatic. Do you still have that conversation? I pulled up the text messages and showed her. She took photos of the screen with her own phone. These are good records, she said. Mr. Foley mentioned you've been documenting everything. Can I see? I handed over my notebook and my phone. Watching adults read my words felt like being split open. Every entry was a piece of fear I'd tried to contain. Every video was proof that I'd been breaking down alone. When Deborah finished, she closed the notebook carefully. Susie, you did something very brave. Most kids wouldn't have thought to keep records like this. These will help us make sure you're safe. What happens to my parents? I asked quietly. That depends on a lot of things. But right now, my concern is you. We need to find you a safe place to stay while we sort this out. Mr. Foley cleared his throat. My wife Mick and I have a guest room. Susie's been my student. We'd be happy to have her stay with us temporarily if that helps. Deborah considered this. Are you comfortable with that, Susie? I looked at Mr. Foley. In school, he'd always been the teacher who listened, who didn't dismiss us when we said something mattered, who treated kids like people. Yes, I said. All right. I'll file the emergency paperwork. Susie will stay with the Foleys while we conduct our investigation, and I'll be contacting your parents immediately. They're in Europe. I don't know if they'll answer. Oh, they'll answer, Officer Flock said grimly. Trust me, when CPS and the police both start calling, people answer. That night, I slept in a real bed in Mr. and Mrs. Foley's guest room. Mrs. Foley, Mick, made me chicken soup and sat with me while I ate, not saying much, just being there. When I finally crawled under the covers, clean and fed and warm, I cried for the first time since my family had left. Not because I was sad, because I was relieved. Because for the first time in 7 days, I felt like I mattered to someone. The next morning, my phone exploded with messages. My mother had finally gotten Deborah's call. What did you tell them? Why are there police involved? Susie Chambers, you better explain yourself right now. Do you have any idea what you've done to this family? I stared at the messages. Not one of them asked if I was okay. Not one asked if I was safe, if I'd eaten, if I was scared. Just anger, just accusations. Mick noticed me looking at my phone. Everything okay? My mom's mad. Can I see? I handed it to her. She scrolled through the messages, her expression darkening. Then she did something I didn't expect. She started typing a response. What are you doing? I asked. Responding, as your current guardian. She showed me what she'd written. This is Mick Foley. Susie is staying with my husband and I under CPS supervision. She is safe, fed, and cared for. If you want to discuss why she's here instead of in your home, you can direct those questions to Deborah Newton at CPS. Do not contact Susie directly with accusations. She has done nothing wrong. Are you sure? I whispered. Positive, she said. She hit send. My mother's response came within seconds. Who the hell are you? Put my daughter on the phone now. Mick typed back, no. Then she silenced my phone and set it face down on the counter. You don't need to see any more of that right now. Let the adults handle this. Over the next few days, I learned what happened when the system actually worked. Deborah visited twice more, each time with more questions, more forms, more documentation. She interviewed neighbors. She got statements from the school. She pulled my academic records showing that I'd never missed a day, never had behavioral problems, never shown signs of trouble at home, because I'd been taught to hide trouble. Your parents are cutting their trip short, she told me on day 10. They'll be home in 3 days. My stomach dropped. Do I have to go back? Not yet. There's going to be a hearing. A judge will decide what happens next. But I want you to know something, Susie. You have a voice. What you want matters. I want them to understand, I said slowly. I want them to know what it felt like. They're going to see everything. Your notebook, your videos, the reports. They're going to have to face what they did. Will that be enough? She gave me a sad smile. I hope so. The day my family came home, I wasn't there. Deborah thought it would be better if I stayed at the Foley's house, while she and Officer Flock met them at our house to explain the situation, but she set up a video call so I could listen. I watched on Mick's iPad as my family walked through the front door. I saw my mother first, her hair perfectly styled despite the long flight, my father behind her, juggling suitcases, Wiles looking annoyed, Caroline chattering about something. Then they saw Deborah and Officer Flock sitting at our kitchen table, the same table where I'd eaten peanut butter with my fingers while they were drinking wine in Tuscany. "What's going on?" my mother demanded. "Why are you in my house?" "Mrs. Chambers, I'm Deborah Newton from CPS. This is Officer K. Flock. We need to discuss your daughter, Susie." "Where is she? What did she tell them?" "She's safe. That's what matters. Please, sit down." My family sat. I watched their faces on the screen as Deborah laid it all out. The 7 days alone, the $27, the empty pantry, the text messages where my mother dismissed my cry for help as drama. "That's ridiculous," my mother interrupted. "There was plenty of food. She's exaggerating." Deborah slid photos across the table, pictures Officer Flock had taken of our pantry, our fridge, the nearly empty cabinets. "These were taken on day 7. Does this look like plenty of food to you?" My mother's face went pale. My father leaned forward, staring at the photos. "That can't be right. We left her with $27, Deborah said, for 30 days, with no working credit card, no backup plan, and no adult supervision. Wiles was supposed to check on her, my mother said desperately. Wiles is 17. He went with you to Europe. Susie was alone. The room went silent. On the screen, I could see Wiles' face. He looked sick. He started. "I thought Dad was staying home." My father shook his head. "I thought you were." "I asked you," my mother snapped at my father. "I specifically asked if someone was staying with Susie, and you said yes. I thought you arranged it." They were turning on each other, blaming each other, everyone trying to make it someone else's fault. Deborah's voice cut through. "It doesn't matter who thought what. What matters is that an 11-year-old child was left alone for days with insufficient resources and no supervision. That's neglect under state law. She could have called someone," my mother argued. "She could have gone to a neighbor." "She did," Officer Flock said. "Mrs. Levitt next door turned her away because she didn't believe a child would be left alone. She thought Susie was lying." My mother opened her mouth, then closed it. Deborah pulled out my notebook and placed it on the table. Susie kept detailed records of everything, how much food she had, how she tried to ration it, when she reached out for help and was dismissed. She also recorded videos. "Videos?" My father's voice cracked. "She documented her situation in case something happened to her, in case she needed proof." Deborah opened my notebook to the first page. "Would you like to read what your daughter wrote, or should I read it to you?" My mother reached for the notebook with shaking hands. I watched her eyes scan the pages. Day 1, Day 3, Day 5, each entry a timestamp of my fear. When she got to Day 5, where I'd written, "Told Mom I need food, she said don't be dramatic," she made a sound like a wounded animal. "Oh God," she whispered. "Oh God, Susie." Deborah pulled out her phone. "She also recorded this on Day 3. Would you like to see?" She pressed play. My voice filled the kitchen, tinny through the iPad speakers. Day 3, still alone. There's almost no food left. I tried to get help, but no one believes me. I watched my mother's face crumple. My father put his head in his hands. Caroline started crying. Wiles stared at the table, his jaw clenched. When the video ended, the silence was suffocating. "Where is she?" my mother asked again, but this time her voice was different, smaller, broken. "Please, I need to see her. I need to tell her I'm sorry. She is in temporary placement with a teacher and his wife. She's safe, fed, and receiving appropriate care." "You took my daughter away from me," my mother said, tears streaming down her face. "No," Deborah said firmly, "you left your daughter alone for days with no food and no supervision. The state stepped in to ensure her safety when you failed to do so." My father looked up. "What happens now?" "There will be a hearing. A judge will determine whether Susie can safely return to your custody and under what conditions. In the meantime, you're prohibited from contacting her directly. All communication goes through my office." "That's insane," my mother said. "She's our daughter. And she's a child who was neglected. Until we can ensure it won't happen again, she stays where she is." Officer Flock stood. "You should also know that we're considering whether criminal charges are appropriate. Child endangerment is a serious offense." My father's face went gray. "Criminal charges?" "Potentially. That decision will be made by the district attorney's office after they review the evidence." I watched my family fall apart on the screen, my mother sobbing into her hands, my father looking lost, Wiles standing up and walking out of the room, Caroline asking questions no one could answer. And I felt something I didn't expect, not satisfaction, not victory, just a deep, aching sadness that it had come to this, that I'd had to document my own abandonment just to be believed. Mick reached over and paused the video. "You don't have to watch anymore." "I know," I said, "but I want to see." She pressed play again. Deborah was gathering her papers. "We'll be in touch about the hearing date. In the meantime, I suggest you consult with an attorney and consider enrolling in parenting classes. The judge will want to see that you understand the severity of what happened and that you're taking steps to ensure it never happens again." "Can we at least send her a message, through you, just to tell her we're sorry?" Deborah considered this. "I'll ask her if she wants to receive messages from you, but she has the right to say no." My mother looked directly at the camera, at Deborah's phone, and for a moment it felt like she was looking at me. "Susie, if you can hear this, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We made a terrible mistake. We thought you were..." Her voice broke. "We thought you were more independent than you were. We thought you'd be fine. We were wrong. We were so wrong." I felt tears running down my face. Mick put an arm around me. "I love you," my mother continued. "I know I have to earn the right to say that again. I know I have to prove it, but please know that I love you and I will do whatever it takes to make this right." The video ended. Deborah had disconnected the call. I sat there for a long time, staring at the blank screen. Mick didn't rush me. She just sat beside me, present and solid. "Do you want to send them a message?" she asked finally. I thought about it, about everything I wanted to say, all the anger and hurt and fear I'd carried alone. "Yes," I said, "but not yet. First, I want them to really understand." "Understand what?" Dixie asked. "That sorry isn't enough, that love isn't enough if it doesn't come with action. They loved me the whole time I was alone, but love didn't fill my stomach. Love didn't keep me safe. They need to prove they understand the difference." Mick squeezed my shoulder. "That's very wise, Susie. Mr. Foley taught me that, in social studies. He said people reveal who they are through their actions, not their words. My parents said I was independent and responsible and mature, but their actions said I was disposable." "You are not disposable," Mick said, fiercely. "You hear me? You are not disposable." The hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. In that time, I lived with the Foleys and learned what stability felt like. Breakfast every morning, dinner every night, someone asking about my homework, my day, my feelings. It wasn't perfect. I still woke up sometimes in the middle of the night, heart pounding, checking to make sure someone was there. But it was safe. My parents sent messages through Deborah, long emails apologizing, explaining, begging for another chance. I read them all but didn't respond. I wasn't trying to punish them, I just didn't know what to say yet. Wiles sent his own message. It was shorter. "I'm sorry, Susie. I should have checked. I should have known. I failed you as a brother and I'll never forgive myself. I hope someday you can forgive me." That one made me cry, because Wiles was the closest to my age, the one who should have understood what it felt like to be left behind, and he'd gotten on that plane without a second thought. The day of the hearing, I wore the dress Mick had bought me, navy blue with white buttons, professional but still kid-appropriate. Deborah met me at the courthouse and walked me through what would happen. "The judge will ask you questions," she explained. "You just tell the truth. Whatever you're feeling, whatever you want to say, you say it. This is your chance to be heard." The courtroom was smaller than I expected. My parents sat at one table with their lawyer, a sharp-looking woman named Terrence Crawford. I sat with Deborah. The Foleys sat in the gallery behind me. The judge was a black woman named Lerrero Jill, and when she looked at me, her eyes were kind but serious. "Good morning, Susie. I've read all the reports about your situation. I've seen your notebook and your videos, but I want to hear you directly. Can you tell me in your own words what happened?"
If you're enjoying this story so far, please take just 1 second to drop a like and leave a comment. It really helps us keep creating these stories for you, and we genuinely appreciate every single one of you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Now, let's get back to.
I took a deep breath. My parents went to Europe on August 14th. They told me they'd be gone for a month. They left me with $27 and said my brother would check on me, but he went with them. I was alone for 7 days before anyone noticed. How did you feel during those 7 days? Scared, hungry, invisible. My voice shook, but I kept going. I kept thinking that if something happened to me, no one would know, so I started writing everything down. I made videos. I wanted proof that I tried to survive. Why did you think you needed proof? Because when I told my mom I needed food, she said I was being dramatic. She didn't believe me. I thought if I disappeared, people would think it was my fault, that I didn't try hard enough. Judge Gill leaned forward. "Susie, do you think it was your fault that you were left alone?" "No," I said, "not anymore. At first I thought maybe I should have been better at handling it. Maybe I should have been more independent. But Mr. Foley and Mrs. Foley taught me that independence doesn't mean you don't need adults. It means you know when to ask for help. And I did ask. I just wasn't heard." The judge nodded slowly. She turned to my parents. "Mr. and Mrs. Chambers, I've reviewed your statements. You claim this was a miscommunication, that each of you thought someone else was staying with Susie." My mother stood. "Your Honor, that's exactly what happened. It was a terrible mistake. We never meant—" "Intent doesn't erase impact," Judge Gill interrupted. "You left an 11-year-old child alone for days with insufficient resources. Whether you intended to or not, the result was the same. Susie was neglected." "We understand that now," my father said. "We've enrolled in parenting classes. We've started family therapy. We're committed to doing better." "I'm glad to hear that." The judge looked back at me. "Susie, what do you want to happen? Do you want to go home?" The question hung in the air. Everyone waited. "I don't know," I said, honestly. "Part of me wants to believe they've changed. Part of me wants my family back. But another part of me is scared that if I go back, they'll forget, that eventually everything will go back to normal, and I'll just be the kid who's supposed to handle things on her own again." "What would make you feel safe?" I thought about it. I want them to prove it, not just say they're sorry, but show me. I want to know that if I need help, they'll actually listen. I want to matter more than their vacation or their work or their image. Judge Gill made notes. Here's what I'm ordering. Susie will remain in the temporary care of the Foleys for an additional 60 days. During that time, Mr. and Mrs. Chambers will continue parenting classes and family therapy. They'll have supervised visitation with Susie twice a week if Susie consents. After 60 days, we'll reconvene and assess whether reunification is appropriate. My mother gasped. 60 days? That's 2 more months. Yes, 2 months for you to demonstrate real change. 2 months for Susie to feel safe enough to consider coming home. This is not a punishment, Mrs. Chambers. This is an opportunity. Use it wisely. She banged her gavel. This hearing is adjourned. As we filed out of the courtroom, my mother tried to approach me. Susie, please. Deborah stepped between us. Mrs. Chambers, no direct contact. If you want to speak to Susie, we can arrange it during supervised visitation. I watched my mother's face crumble. Part of me wanted to run to her, to hug her, to make it all better, but I stayed where I was. I'll see you at visitation, I said quietly, but only if you're ready to really listen. The first visitation happened 3 days later, in a small room at the CPS office. My parents sat at one side of the table, I sat on the other. A social worker named Noah Curris sat in the corner, watching. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then my father said, "We read your notebook, all of it." "And?" I asked. "And it broke my heart," he said, "seeing what you went through, knowing we caused it." My mother reached across the table but didn't touch me. "Susie, I need you to understand something. I didn't think I was abandoning you. I genuinely believed you were mature enough to handle a few weeks alone. I thought I was giving you independence. You were giving yourself a vacation from parenting." She flinched. "You're right, that's exactly what I was doing, and I'm ashamed of that. Why did you do it? Why was getting away more important than making sure I was safe?" She took a shaky breath. "Because I was tired, because I felt overwhelmed, because I convinced myself that I deserved a break and that you were capable enough not to need me. But that was selfish. You're 11, you're still a child, and I forgot that. How do you know you won't forget again?" "You don't," she admitted, "not yet. All I can do is show you, every day, every choice. I have to earn your trust back." Wiles spoke up. "I should have checked. Before we left, I should have made sure someone was staying with you. I assumed Dad was, and I didn't ask. That's on me." "You're 17, I said. "You shouldn't have had to be my parent." "No, but I should have been your brother, and I wasn't." We sat in silence again. Then I pulled out a piece of paper. On it, I'd written a list. "I wrote down what I need," I said, "if I'm ever going to feel safe coming home." My mother leaned forward. "Tell us." 1. No trips without me unless there's another adult staying at the house, not Wiles, an actual adult. They nodded. 2. Family dinners at least 3 times a week. No phones, no work, just us. "Yes," my father said, "absolutely." 3. If I say I need help, you believe me. You don't dismiss it, you don't call me dramatic, you listen. My mother's eyes filled with tears. "I promise, I will always listen." 4. I want to keep seeing Mr. and Mrs. Foley, even if I come home. They've been really good to me and I don't want to lose them. "Of course," my father said. "They saved you. They're part of your life now." I folded the paper. "That's what I need. If you can do those things, really do them, not just say you will, then maybe we can be a family again." My mother stood and walked around the table. Slowly, carefully, she pulled me into a hug. This time I let her. "I love you," she whispered into my hair. "I'm so sorry I made you doubt that." "I love you too," I said, "but love isn't enough. You have to show up." "I will, every single day, I promise." Over the next 60 days, they proved it. Twice a week, we had visitation. Sometimes we talked, sometimes we just sat together. Gradually, I started to believe that maybe they really had changed. They sent me photos of the house, my room cleaned and reorganized, the pantry fully stocked, a calendar on the fridge with family dinner nights marked in red. Wiles sent me texts every few days, random stuff, memes, updates on his college applications, just letting me know he was thinking of me. Caroline made me drawings that she sent through Deborah, pictures of our family together, everyone smiling. "Come home soon," she wrote on one. "I miss you." And slowly the fear started to ease. Not disappear, but ease. When the 60 days were up, we went back to court. Judge Gill looked at the reports from therapy, the parenting class certificates, the visitation notes. "Susie," she said, "how do you feel?"
Nervous, I admitted, but hopeful. I think they understand now. I think they really get it. "Do you want to go home?" I looked at my parents, at my father who'd taken time off work for every single visitation, at my mother who'd stopped posting on social media and started asking me real questions about my life, at Wiles who'd stayed home from college visits to be part of family therapy. "Yes," I said, "I want to go home." Judge Gill smiled. "Then I'm approving reunification with conditions. Mandatory check-ins with CPS for 6 months, continued family therapy, and Susie, if at any point you feel unsafe, you contact Deborah immediately. Understood?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Mr. and Mrs. Chambers, this is your second chance. Don't waste it." "We won't," my mother said. "I swear we won't." Moving back home was strange. The house looked the same but felt different. Or maybe I was different. I'd been 11 when they left, I was still 11 when I came back, but I'd lived a lifetime in those weeks in between. The first night we had dinner together, all 5 of us at the table, no phones, no TV, just talking. Caroline talked about school, Wiles talked about his college plans. My parents asked questions and actually listened to the answers. After dinner, my mother came to my room. She sat on the edge of my bed. "I want to give you something," she said. She handed me a journal, leather-bound and expensive-looking. "I know you kept a notebook while we were gone. I thought maybe you'd want to keep writing. Not as evidence this time, just as you. Your thoughts, your life, your story." I ran my hand over the cover. "Thank you. And Susie, I'm going to keep a journal too, about being a better mother, about showing up, so we can both keep track, together." I looked up at her. "That sounds good." She kissed my forehead, a real kiss this time, not a fake one, and left me alone. I opened the journal and wrote on the first page, "Day 1 back home. Still scared, still healing, but maybe, just maybe, we can figure this out." That was 3 months ago. Today I'm still writing. Some days are hard. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and have to check that there's food in the kitchen, that I'm not alone, that this is real. But most days are better. Most days I have breakfast with my family. Most days someone asks how I'm doing and means it. Most days I feel like I matter. My story spread, not because I wanted attention, but because these things don't stay secret. Other families at school heard about it. Some people whispered, some people stared, but others, other kids, started telling their own stories about times they felt neglected or forgotten or invisible. Mr. Foley started a support group at school for kids dealing with difficult home situations. I go sometimes. I share my story, not for sympathy, but to show other kids that it's okay to ask for help, that documenting your truth isn't betrayal, it's survival. My parents still struggle sometimes. My mom still gets overwhelmed by work. My dad still forgets things. But now, when it happens, they acknowledge it. They apologize. They adjust. And I'm learning something important. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending it never happened. It means choosing to believe people can change while still honoring the hurt they caused. The videos I recorded are still on my phone. The notebook is still in my drawer. Not as weapons anymore, just as reminders of what I survived, of what I'm worth, of the moment I decided that being heard was more important than being easy. So if you're reading this and you're in a situation where you feel alone, where adults aren't listening, where you think maybe you're the problem, write it down, record it, document your truth, not because you want revenge, but because your story deserves to be told, because you deserve to be believed. My family went to Europe for a month and left me with $27 at age 11. When they returned, what they found made my mother scream, not in anger, but in recognition. She saw what she'd done, she saw who she almost lost, and she saw a daughter who refused to disappear quietly. That was the real moment everything changed, not when they left, but when I decided I was worth being found. And you know what? I was right.